Go ahead.
Okay, would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background, what brought you to this point?
I'm Jay Richardson. I work with McDonough Consulting, and right now I'm working on the Ford Paquette project. I spent 31 years with Ford in manufacturing before I retired a year and a half ago, and most of that was in operations and engineering. I was plant manager at 2 plants and the global paint engineering manager, and I spent the last 5 years of my career at the Rouge working on the Ford Heritage Project, which was a revitalization of the Rouge into a sustainable manufacturing center.
Okay. You mentioned a sustainable manufacturing center. Would you discuss the sustainability movement, as some people might refer to it?
Well, the sustainability movement is normally referred to as the triple bottom line. In Ford at least, it's really trying to take and look at capital. Yeah, right.
It's okay.
At Ford, it's really about making sure that you have balanced all of the various aspects of sustainability. So the business, the social, and the environmental, and consider them in your daily decisions as an engineer and a manager. And that's really what we did at the Rouge.
So business, social, and environmental, that's the triple bottom line. What role do you believe higher education should play in supporting the sustainability movement? What should the role of higher education be in either educating students or educating the community?
I think one of the things that makes higher education great, and on the other hand gives it challenges, is that it works within paradigms of past practice. And so when you think about sustainable technology, it really is disruptive technology by and large at this point, because it goes against those engineering paradigms. So I think what the education system, especially higher education, needs to do is really open up the perspective on their teaching to really encompass what does it take to create the disruptive technologies that allow for sustainability to flourish. How do you make good economic sense of recycling plastics? How do you make good economic sense of finding solutions to urban warming and those kinds of things within a business context, within a social context, and an environmental context that all makes sense? And I think that's the challenge to education today.
Yeah.
Sit. I'm trying to get his eyes a little bit lower.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you seem to be looking up really high, but I think it's because you're so tall. So I think this will.
That's all right.
This will fix it.
Okay, so some people, let's say my colleagues at the university, some people would feel that the university should be a leader, and others would say, well, we need to respond to industry, we need to respond to the industrial advisory board, so we need to solicit input from industry before we make any decisions. How would we strike a balance on that? The idea of being a leader in the sustainability movement versus responding to industrial needs.
And the way that we've looked at it is really pretty straightforward. We believe that elemental knowledge resides in universities and in special interest kinds of groups, ESD, Society of Plastics Engineers, those kinds of folks, right? They really need to develop the elemental knowledge that's necessary to find sustainable solutions. Raw material suppliers, people who ramp up that kind of technology, they are really the developmental knowledge people. When you get to our first tier suppliers, they're the component level of knowledge, and of course the OEMs and some of the full service suppliers, they really look at the product as a whole. So from my perspective, you need to have feedback on what is it that needs to be developed. What's the gap analysis in sustainable technology that the university should be focused on to find business solutions? But ultimately, the thing that you bring to the party uniquely is that ability to develop elemental solutions around technology that support sustainable development.
Great. This question is going to be a little more specific to Lawrence Tech, but two cornerstones of Lawrence Tech's educational goals are sustainability and entrepreneurship. If you look at our educational undergraduate goals, those are two current hallmarks. You've touched upon this a little bit, but I want to flesh it out a little more. Some would argue that sustainability and entrepreneurship, i.e. business growth, would be adversarial in nature, that you can't have both business growth as well as to care for the environment. And perhaps that goes back to what you were saying about the old school way of thinking. But can you make some good arguments that dispel that myth, that sustainability and entrepreneurship aren't adversarial in nature?
I think if you look at what was done at the Rouge, we started out with Bill Ford's vision of a new type of manufacturing center. How do you build a manufacturing center that not only services the needs of the business, but services the needs of the people that work there as well as the environmental needs? And to do that within a budget that was already established. And so, we had to go out and basically develop solutions within that budget that met the sustainable agenda that we were trying to accomplish in that project. And we did it very successfully, but we did it by going back and figuring out, what are the key elements that allow a manufacturing center, a brownfield site, to be reinvented as a sustainable manufacturing center, and then work through what the trade-offs are that make that happen. And I think that's what you have to do to be able to take the entrepreneurship and the business sense and put them together. I think there are going to be a lot of great opportunities for entrepreneurs to find solutions that make good business sense, and that's really what I think a Lawrence Tech can bring to the sustainability movement.
So talking about entrepreneurs, your background is very entrepreneurial, or intrapreneurial, as some people call internal corporate entrepreneurship. What are some of the traits that you believe make up a good entrepreneur or a corporate intrapreneur?
I think that you've got to be open to unique solutions. We talked a little bit earlier about engineering practice and how it can limit the focus of the possibilities. I think if you're an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, what you have to do is open yourself up to the possibilities of technology and then figure out how to engineer a solution around those. Probably the best example of that at the Rouge was really this fumes to fuel project that we did in the paint shop. Taking the paint solvent fumes off of the paint shop stack, taking them and actually converting them into energy using a fuel cell after they went through a fluidized bed, and creating more energy than what the equipment took to be able to process it, as opposed to burning it up with natural gas and high volumes of air and the CO2 footprint that provided. Going out and doing that based on a hypothesis and engineering that solution and bringing it home. I think those are the kinds of things that entrepreneurs can do better than anybody, but they have to have the impetus to get it done.
So the impetus or the drive, shall we say, to seek out unique opportunities that would support the sustainable movement. What about, one of the conversations that we have here is, what is the entrepreneurial mindset? Some people believe, the entrepreneurial mindset is really focused on the business skills. Others would argue that it's bigger than that. It's determination, it's teamwork, some of those types of things. Can you speak a little bit about that? What are the personal skills or traits that would assist somebody in being successful?
I think the first thing you have to do is have vision. You have to be able to envision where it is that you want to go. Begin with the end in mind. If you talk to Stephen Covey, and so if you figure out what it is that an end solution should look like, then you can figure out whether the enablers are there and understand what it takes from a technology standpoint to fill the gaps that allow you to get there. Certainly, you've got to be able to take the ups and downs of development projects. They're never an easy road. There are an awful lot of people that tell you why they can't be done. So you have to have the intestinal fortitude to be able to go out and make those things happen. You also have to have the wisdom to figure out when you hit a dead end, that it really is a dead end, and stop throwing money at it. So, it's a balance between the two. I think it takes some business skills, it takes some engineering skills, it takes a lot of personal character and commitment to finding that solution and not compromising until you figured out that that solution really isn't technologically there.
Great. And I apologize if some of these questions are leading you to repetitive answers, but one of the things I think I mentioned to you is that some of this is actually going to be broken up into sound bites.
So that's fine.
So it sounds to me, though, you're familiar with the term social entrepreneurship.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on social entrepreneurship as a concept?
I think that whenever you go and try and attack one of the three aspects of sustainability, you're probably going to fail. To be a pure environmentalist, to be a pure social advocate, to be a pure business person will drive you to the wrong behaviors. When you think about what Bill McDonough looks at as far as taking a fractal model of sustainability and determining what is it that each of those three roles play in that decision, which ones are predominant because of where they are in that fractal model, but considering the other two, you tend to make better decisions. You tend to not overlook some of the downside of each of those. So social entrepreneurship certainly has its place. If you want to start a hedge fund or a stock, a new mutual fund, there's an awful lot of buzz on it. You can probably make an awful lot of money. Whether it meets the goal of having people really get all of the social aspect, all of the business aspect, all of the environmental aspect out of that prospect, I don't know. That's for somebody else to say. But I think, at least in our experience, we've been a lot more successful, and we were at the Rouge, by not looking at it as an environmental philanthropy or a social exercise for the people that work there, but by bringing it all into the context that we needed a good business solution that serviced the needs of the people that were there and that provided environmental stewardship as part of that solution.
So what new products or ideas, for example, hybrid cars or green buildings, what do you envision would be the most common in the next 10 years? What are the products, the sustainable products or the sustainable developments that we're all just going to take as commonplace 10 years from now? Do you think?
I think that green buildings certainly will become much more predominant. I think it's the area in industry that actually has the greatest amount of knowledge that exists, that's capable of being applied in the short term. So I think when you look at high R value homes that have good ventilation but still are very efficient in heating, cooling, highly programmable, environmentally sound, I think that the building industry really has the ability to do that quicker than the automotive industry. Automobiles need to figure out how to reduce their environmental footprint, both in the manufacturing and end of life, as well as life cycle analysis. Hybrids and renewable fuels are certainly part of that solution. They're part of the things that can make that happen. But there's a lot of other technology that's emerging. Things like plug-in hybrids, things like hydrogen ICE, internal combustion engines. This whole idea over the next 10 to 15 years that, you know, the world transitions off of a petroleum industry. Not sure that that's a realistic goal in that kind of time frame. I think you'll start to see elements of it. Renewables, especially cellulosic ethanol, really have some high potential to be able to solve a lot of different problems. Biomass represents a great opportunity to supplement natural gas as a substitution. We got plenty of biomass to deal with, and it's a pretty productive process to be able to. So I think you're going to see biomass generators as a fairly commonplace process to be able to substitute for natural gas. So I think the business community, the entrepreneurial community, really is going to lead in that process. Automobiles are probably going to take a little bit longer to really find a great solution to reduce their footprint. It'll get reduced over that period of time, but I don't know that great solution is right there.
What advice would you have for our current students? You know, what should our students know before they enter the workforce? When they leave our doors, if we've done our job, you know, what advice would you have for them?
I think the key to most successful folks is to find something they love to do. And you know, sometimes you find that when you're in college, sometimes you don't. But when you go out into the workplace, you know, really check out all of the options that are available. Engineers do an awful lot of things in this world beyond just sitting at a CAD screen or sitting at a drafting board using a slide rule like I did when I started. But they need to go and check out those options. Things like patent attorneys and environmental engineers, things that are not necessarily right within the course of study that they did, offer some really interesting and exciting opportunities.
Yeah, a lot of our students, I think, have the issue with not, I guess, having a hard time grappling with not really understanding what they're going to, the options you were just referring to. You know, they've studied really hard to be a civil engineer or an architect. And it's very hard for us to communicate to them that, you know, in 5 years, you're probably not really going to be practicing, you know, civil engineering as you might know it right now. Technological advances, opportunities like patent law. I mean, your career is just going to take you places. And it's easy for us to say, but I don't always think it sinks in until they're out there. But
well, I'll give you a personal example, right?
That'd be great.
I'm actually have a Bachelor of Chemistry from Purdue. And so, you know, I went to Ford as a paint engineer 32 years ago. And basically that path took me around the world a few times. You know, I've practiced as a facilities engineer, paint engineer, plant engineer, done the plant manager's job, been in operations. So, you know, what you really learn in an engineering curriculum is how to attack problems. What you really learn is engineering ease, as I used to tell my engineers, right? You need to understand what a problem is, how to go attack it. There are plenty of folks in this world that will get you a solution around the problem if you frame it correctly and you're capable of understanding what the potential solutions are. If you don't understand what the potential solutions are and you're down in the analytical part of the problem, you may not see the best solution. So that would be my suggestion. Right?
Great. Is there, as we wrap up, is there any basically parting words, anything I haven't covered that you would like to share with us?
I think, you know, one of the things that I believe is important from a higher education standpoint is that the people that graduate from a university like Lawrence Tech are really the people that are capable of making a difference in this world. They really are capable of going out and finding the solutions to the problems and making the world a better place for their children. to me, that's what sustainability is all about. It's not about whether or not I solve global warming, or whether or not I solve urban heat effect, or whether or not I go out and make this great design car or building. What it really is finding little ways in improving this world for my kids and for their kids, and that's what keeps me going every day.
That's very motivating. Thank you very much.